Good morning. We're live. This is Coffee with the Summerland Kids. This is episode 100. 100.
10 times 10.
Yeah. And it is August 23rd, 2024. The weather in Summerland today is 59 degrees, currently high of 76. And it said mostly clear. So maybe that's like mostly sunny. I don't know.
What's the difference between mostly clear and mostly sunny?
I know. It's weird. Maybe there's just some I don't know. Maybe those little here right now we're looking at an overcast sky but there's no chance of rain. It said in the forecast, but who knows, man? The weather's what is it? I just read it off of my app, my weather app. I guess the one that's built into the phone. So there's that. I'm sure Google would probably say something different on or like what is it? KEYT, the local the local sources for Santa Barbara probably have a different story, but who knows? But
No,
they've been
that's
having,
hilarious because me and my girlfriend
yeah,
will be like, "What's the weather?" My app says 88. And then
yeah,
I'll be like, "Well, my app says 90."
right,
And
yeah,
so, yeah, I imagine that maybe things get updated or,
oh
some
for
some
sure,
weather. I was watching how they do it, and it's like, okay, if they're at a 50% confidence that 50% of the town is going to have rain, then that's a 25% chance of rain or some weird calculation like that.
yeah, huh, yeah, it's crazy. So been a
So
pretty
you're
interesting,
excited. You're excited. You're going to do the first day of the
yeah,
estate sale.
first day of the estate sale. It's like they're I want to say probably an East Coast family, just guessing, and I heard something about he may have worked for the railroad back in the day, so he collected. There is a handful of really cool tools that he had. He definitely had like stuff for woodwork and also stuff for metalwork. A couple of welders. I think oxyacetylene for sure. Little wire feed MIG welder. Another. I think it's an arc welder. The guy was like set up like the man's man garage. Like beyond what I would imagine using. I guess if you could build your dream shop, um, it's sort of like that scenario. It's not huge, but it's definitely not small. And he had an upstairs area that he built in above the garage. It's almost like a barn where he had like I think about 8 or 10 metal storage shelves full of stuff. And it wasn't a hoarder. It was definitely like all utility, you know, need related stuff. And all the sanding discs and that all the abrasives and all the extra doodads that a guy would have, this guy seemed to have. So I guess he aged out of it, and his sons weren't interested in sort of like taking dad's shop and moving it and that whole thing. So I guess what happens with families sometimes is the family at some point does a walkthrough of the house, and they are given the opportunity to take what they want. And they to me they didn't take much. They maybe took a couple notable gas station signs or something like that off the wall, but it wasn't like a really desolate scene. It was a scene full of, at least for the opportunity for the estate sale. I feel like the estate sale will do well, and the money goes to the family to help take care of their father, who's in possibly assisted living or something like that.
So how's it work? So you get the auctioneer person or the estate sale person hired you, right? And
Yep,
so
yeah,
you
yeah.
went you went there for the past like week or so, just what
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
what cleaning up, setting up,
Cleaning
organizing
up,
type things.
exactly. And there was a property management company. There still is. They're like the lead on it, and they hired my friend who is like would you say, antique specialist. She has an antique store in town, so she does estate sales as part of her repertoire of her specialties. So she basically goes in and essentially we have limited internet, but sometimes we found a hotspot on the property where we can get internet. So we of course use the resource of eBay and online Google Lens to sometimes price things that she doesn't have off the top of her head. But she's like almost like a living. person who's very knowledgeable and has numbers in her mind on a lot of items because she just sells all the time, and people consign at her store. So she has a really good, again, her pricing is pretty right on, and I think she prices also too for a little bit of wiggle room sometimes because people will of course make offers, and she's had a couple offers. That there was a couple cars on the property, like an old 1997 BMW and a little Dodge Caravan minivan. Um, she Kelly Blue Book and things like that to check things out real quick. But yeah, but it's been at work. Kind of amazed. Her husband is definitely a superhero husband guy who he helped out for a few days, going through the garage and bringing the shelves down and garage, and I helped him with that. And so it's and then yesterday she had a couple listing on the interior of the house. So we should be ready. I cranked out I think I made 10 painted real quick, like estate sale signs with arrows pointing. So that way she uses the old, they pound into the ground. And then she finds those used in scrap fresh. We went to Walmart, classic, Walmart art supply store, and green poster board and knocked out I went and grabbed the paint from her store, went to Walmart, came back to the location, and painted in like 2.5 hours.
So besides the street signs and the arrows and everything,
yeah,
is there any other advertising that she has?
Yeah,
Did she do Craigslist or?
I think the local paper, the newspaper, they put out like a Thursday review type of paper that everyone. So around here, it's pretty old school, but people that are local community, we've already done previews. She has a cool kind of setup store. I think she reached out to a couple personal friends first, but people come, and then she'll let the store person know, like, hey, let the customers know that we're doing you slash sale, so they're given directions to come out. So we've had probably like 10 people have already come through, and a couple of them were very, one man in particular kind of reminded me of a friend from last, maybe an old Wall Street banker kind of broker guy who, people have to, when they get older, like pushing 60 plus, your life, and in your second life, you're like, hey, I'm a collector now. I buy cool old stuff, as a hobby. And so he bought like an anvil and maybe a joiner. So he was definitely like gearing up for. So people definitely take opportunities when they see them. Goods that don't often come up in the modern day. I want to say this man, we're talking like kind of a hero craftsman type of man who this guy was. So people recognize it and will pull, essentially American Pickers Live.
No, the estate sales are something. I guess I'm still got some interest, but I used to be a lot more active as far as going out to the yard sales and picking up different things and having a little bit of knowledge about what they're worth or how resellable they are. And it's definitely
right.
it could definitely get it's kind of like a little bug. Once you get the bug, you it's hard not to gather things and buy things and collect things.
For sure.
It's a lot different now having my own house. It's like I got a lot of space, when you're either, like I was living in my truck for a while or living in an RV or renting a room, you don't really have the space to collect things, to, have lots of things, and I've definitely noticed that now that I got somewhere to put it, I have a lot more things. The fact of the matter is, we have 4 vehicles. I guess one of them is a storage shed
Yeah, the milk truck,
that's in
right?
the backyard. And then we
Yeah, the
got the
milk truck.
big pickup truck with the camper on it. And so, you know, where I was staying before, I was only allowed one vehicle. Every now and then I'd have a second vehicle, but the landlord there would be like, okay, you got to move it over here or sell it, hurry up and get rid of it. Um,
Right.
as far as transitioning through vehicles. And, now
Yeah,
it's like I got a whole room with a, little library set up and
that's
three
nice.
indoor pets, 3 chickens outside. And, oh gosh, because I've hit a couple of these estate sales or moving sales or yard sales, and oh gosh, 3 or 4 shovels now, a couple rakes, a bunch of different
That's good.
stuff for the garage. And estate sales really are a great way to pick up some of the things that you need or maybe want, and
Yeah,
save from retail. 'Cause where a shovel might be 20 or $25 at the store, maybe even more. Actually,
yeah.
the shovels and rakes that we got them for free. We actually
Okay.
went to a Craigslist ad that said free moving, and we got there and we loaded up the item that we had contacted them about, and the lady was like, "Well, yeah, I'm moving, but I haven't had a chance to list everything." And we just started, "Oh, well, what about, oh yeah, you can take that, you can take that. I got some stuff in the back." And next thing you know, my truck was loaded down with a bunch of stuff, like
Yeah,
irrigation, like a drip system and shovels and a couple trash cans. And probably would have been a few $100 if I had gone to the
went to Home
store. Um,
Depot, right?
yeah, and
For
so,
sure.
a lot of times these estate sales, like after the 3 days or on the final day, the prices can be pretty fair, if not
Oh yeah,
very discounted. Because like you're saying, the family doesn't want to have to pay to dump it, and so they're trying to get
yeah,
everything they can out of it. Things like pots and pans or kitchenwares. I've found a lot of cast iron skillets before, Pyrex dishes, which are kind of costly, and some of the older ones are
yeah. They are.
super cool. Corningware,
Yep, yep.
even Tupperware, you know,
I
um,
know, right? Sometimes like that.
can
Yeah,
be reused. I mean, there's no reason for that stuff to go to the landfill.
right. Exactly. And I realized there's essentially the property management company will come after us. So that's like another salve. And then they yesterday they moved one dump trailer, and he said the guy back, and then they separate that stuff because nowadays, thankfully, it's a good thing at the facility. They separate items with like items. So they're very, and oftentimes too, there's a fee they charge you, especially like with they're a challenge to they charge you to recycle TVs, of course, because the certain things that are in there. I don't know. It's just interesting how I remember back even in Los Angeles, it was a hustle because people would recycle television for them. So it's like flipped back now, where it's funny where you're actually paying to get rid of your own stuff. So it's like
Yeah, I mean, the
yeah,
lot of how many people do I know that basically do like barn or yard or garage cleanouts, and they're hired and paid a certain fee to do a dump run, load up all the stuff, and a lot of them will have like a side business, either a resale business or even a thrift shop, because
right,
they're coming across so many items that maybe you're not going to sell at a yard sale, but if you have somewhere to repurpose and reuse and recycle and resell,
yeah,
people get to know, oh, if I want $100 kitchen table and chairs at the store, maybe I can find one for $20 at the recycle place. And that allows these cleanup guys, these cleanup crews, these dump run people to maybe save the owner a little bit of money as far as the cost of cleanout, because now they don't have to make all their money from that client. They can make a little bit of money on the side. I know most recently I got a free shed, and basically, my helper came and helped me break down all the material and load up all the usable material as far as lumber. But then we got the shed, but part of the deal was, oh, we'll take a dump run for you. So we ended up the first day, clearing out all the stuff and loading up a dump run and getting
Okay.
everything prepped to load up. And the guy also was like, "Oh, you want this, you want that, all these different things that he was getting rid of, that he didn't want,
Mhm.
that were of some value, like how he gave me a hydraulic press. He gave me a bunch of tie beanie babies. I don't know if you've
Oh,
heard of
classic.
those. And so I'm like,
Yeah, I
okay,
remember those.
great. He's like, yeah, use those, sell those to help pay for your guys for the
Right.
helpers and for the gas and for the dump run. And I haven't gotten around to listing them and selling them, but I know that I did look some of them up, and some of them had some value to them. $20 here, $10
Yeah,
there. So
awesome.
if I got a bag of say 50 Beanie Babies that are worth $10 each, it might
That's
take a little bit of time, but there's the cost of the my cost for the helpers that weekend,
that's
and
amazing.
so it works out free for him. He gets everything cleaned up. It works out free for me because I'm able to get the lumber. And even though I got to invest in that labor up front, on the back end, there is the possibility of, recouping some of my expenses or even coming out even or coming out profit.
Yeah,
Um, it
that's
is kind of
huge.
an interesting thing because society is geared up towards, get rid of it. It's like you look at some of
Yeah.
these older cars that are 50, 60, 70,000 or more, and they're like old cars that are
Well,
pristine. And,
that part.
you
Yeah.
go to look at a new car and it's 50, 60, $70,000. Um,
Yeah.
and so, where's the value at? Well, the value is in the longevity, like a cast iron skillet. Okay, a good American made cast iron skillet can last hundreds of years,
Wow.
especially if it's well taken care of. And
That's
what's the
amazing.
purpose of throwing out, a cast iron skillet that's got 100 or 200 or 300 years of use on it if it's perfectly good? Um, and
Yeah.
like pots and pans that you get nowadays with the nonstick coating, it always seems to wear off. It gets scratches, and
Yeah.
um, people just throw it out. Oh, it's only $10 for another one. So it's interesting.
It is. Ty Warner, he actually owned. I think it was after you left, but he bought a bunch of property down there by the beach by Bonnie Mead, the Biltmore down there and so he owned a bunch of beachfront property in Montecito, and he actually may have owned Biltmore Hotel was. Um, so that was a thing, and then pull his name out right now, but he was the guy originally from Studio 54 back in New York, and he bought the Miramar Hotel, but then he proceeded in, I don't know, finances, blah blah blah, and then the freaking hotel sat empty for like 10 things. Stupid. Um, they finally redid it, and so the Miramar Hotel is roofs anymore. I don't know if you remember that when we used to drive by the Miramar and have the blue roofs and stuff, front hotel, but now it's all redone and brand new, and now it's like it might be like $1,600. So it's definitely like high end, beachfront spec from Santa Barbara, on the high end. So
Well, it's definitely got, the name recognition, and
yeah,
you do drive by that area where it's at, the Miramar, and kind of an exclusive little community to where
yeah,
there's not real access, only one way in and one way out from the main city part.
yeah.
Um,
That's
so
exactly
it's
right.
interesting, because these beachfront properties, they're desirable. Everybody wants to live on the beach. I don't know whether it's just because, it's sunny all the time in Summerland. I
Exactly.
guess that's part of
That
it.
is part of it. Yeah, and it's become like
But
so
it's
like they
cool.
call, like there's only one Santa Barbara. They call it the American Riviera. And it's basically just this beautiful Mediterranean climate. You got the mountains behind you, the sand. It's sort of like if you were making way probably in the 1920s, it probably felt absolutely amazing. If you were taking a train to Santa Barbara back then, for some people they were probably fairly wealthy, and they actually had a Francisco. I think they had a big earthquake and fire situation a long time ago in Santa Barbara. Long time ago. So there were some big buildings that we lost that are no longer standing. I think that Granada was the only one of the survivors of that whole thing, of that earthquake / fire, or whatever happened back then. But so yeah,
besides just the weather and everything, I think that a big part of it is the Central Coast area is so accessible to the city. How you're only an hour and a half or so away from the big city, but
yeah,
once you
exactly.
get past that Ventura Oxnard, it changes. You go from city
totally.
on city on roads on people to a little bit of open space.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's real desirable. If you got to work and live in the city, that's one thing. But if you got the opportunity to live in a nice country setting, or a little bit more open space and less congested, and you only have a little hour and a half drive to get into the city, it might make a lot of sense. People do commute. Maybe it's not necessarily a luxury lifestyle that they're after, but like Lancaster, a lot of people drive into the city from
Oh, I
Lancaster
know.
just because it's
Exactly.
affordable to get your house up in Lancaster, or
Yeah.
out there in the desert a little bit, and it's reasonable enough to be able to drive an hour and a half to work. I guess at least for some people. I think I used
For
to have
sure.
to commute 45 minutes to an hour sometimes, and it was kind of hectic, because it's like, oh, I got to be at the shop at 7, so that means I got to be up at 5:30 to be out the door by 6:15 to get to the shop by 7.
Yeah.
And then same thing coming home. Oh, I clock out at 5 at the shop. It still takes me almost an hour to get home, especially with traffic.
Wow.
So you're looking at, instead of a 8-hour day with a lunch hour, 9 hours off site, you're 10, 11, 12 hours isn't uncommon when you got to commute like that.
Yeah. That's what's happened. I mean, the people. I also about Santa Barbara. It was an incredible grow climate. And the avocados and all that kind of stuff. So farming way back when, or orchids and cymbidiums and all that's a bunch of different baby's breath and all this ways and stuff. And so there must have been a sort of the water wasn't really back then. It was more readily plentiful because I think it was less. But in terms of the grow climate, Santa Barbara was an amazing, as well as Oxnard. Just moving down the coast a little bit south from Santa, more good growth, and then up where you were at, it's like wine country. Like Santa Ynez, there was a lot of vineyards back there. It seemed like.
Oh yeah, the
So
climate's
again, just
perfect. I mean, the
yeah.
agriculture, all the way from basically from Ventura. Once you hit Ventura, Oxnard, you got them big greenhouses, the big orchards, the fields. And
Absolutely.
it really is, because we got the mild summers on the coast and the mild winters.
Yeah.
And so you can optimize that. You see the fields, especially when I was in like Grover Beach, Oceano area. You see the fields, and 1 month they're full of Brussels sprouts. The next month they're full of cauliflower. A couple
Oh
months
wow,
later, you're full of another crop, and so it's
that's
really
cool.
opportunity to maximize the growth. I guess you grow up on the Central Coast, you get spoiled of fresh local produce every day.
Yeah.
Probably the same thing in Santa Barbara. There is a lot of agriculture um, in the area, not just wineries, vineyards, orchards, but you know, um, regular garden crops. You know,
Yeah. And thankfully, Santa Barbara is pretty hip on that now with first market. I think it's every Thursday, maybe Tuesday or Thursday. Can't remember, but it's a pop. They've moved locations a few times, but for a while they were closing off lower to middle State Street above the freeway, and making a whole shop, closed roads, and the farmers pull their vans and their trucks and into the put up their little tents and stuff and lay out their produce, and it's a whole. It's also a social see their neighbors and their friends at the market, and so it's kind of fun. Sometimes the local chefs will go there to pull produce for their definitely a nice experience, and I think it probably I've been to Germany. I've never been to France or Italy or places like that, but I imagine they have a similar kind of thing. The local farming and the local produce is probably a part of their, and they're not so dependent on the larger factory farms.
Oh,
America.
absolutely. I mean, you got to figure you put a seed in the ground and give it some water, it's going to grow.
Yeah.
And, if you have a huge area or even a moderate size area, a lot of times you have more stuff than you can eat personally, or at least, have time or the intention to can it or save it or dry it or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, you would think every area where there's enough weather and water to have any kind of crops, there should be some local produce. And, like local honey, they say, oh, if you're having allergies, have some local honey because, you get a little bit of that pollen in your system and it seems to benefit you. And, me and my friends have talked about how, certain times of year or certain weathers, your body is going to need certain foods, right? Like, if you're in the California sunshine, you get a lot of oranges, or the Florida sunshine, you get a lot of oranges that grow real readily. Is your body kind of acclimating to the same weather, and does it respond to those nutrients and those specific foods that are grown locally? I would imagine there's some argument about that, as far as,
Right.
keep it local, think global, act local. Is that
Yeah.
one of the things?
Absolutely. Just I know in terms of population, it is quite challenging to feed everybody. There's also, I mean, I feel like we're doing okay in America for the most part, but in the global situation, I know there's places that are experiencing major drought. It's really sad to think in those terms, where I know there is a real I guess there's a science behind it and a play with all that stuff, how to keep everyone alive, so to speak, that's on the planet. Because some people, were born into areas that are, quite different than we're being born in a desert. I don't know how they do it. It's just a tribal sort of tribal trade routes and things like that. But with wars and foreign countries and everything, it just throws everything totally off in chaos. Keep their trade going and stuff like that. So that's challenging. So
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting because I'm not gonna lie, I'm sheltered. I know what's around. I know my neighborhood.
yeah,
I know my state a little bit, but to be honest, I, I don't know my country. I don't know the world.
right.
I count myself as blessed or lucky or won the birth lottery, having been born in
Right.
Summerland in
Yeah. Yeah.
California and
Exactly.
having, the experience of
Yeah.
abundance, I guess, and
Right.
freedom or whatever, freedom of speech, even though, I guess there's some angles that are like, oh no, but anyway, um,
We're
episode 100,
episode
we
100.
did it, Jericho.
So, yeah, we did it.
We're
Yeah,
about
we
we're
made it.
about 30 seconds
Yeah,
away from our
quite a feat.
scheduled time, 30
Yeah.
minutes.
So shout out to the Restream and YouTube and Facebook Live. And the Restream, and we just want to thank everyone for watching, and appreciate you guys checking us in or 2 of your day and checking out what Aaron and I have to talk about, so and going from the gut, on our topics. So cheers to the internet forums. Yeah. The live
Awesome, brother. We'll
chat
see you
room.
on Monday
Right,
for
man.
episode
Have a
101.
great weekend, man. Cheers. All right. Take it easy. Later.